Hey, welcome to today's live Q&A, and today is all about how to create wins with consistency. And this time that we're in, finding any kind of consistent action maybe has been a bit of a challenge because we've been forced to change things continually. And what may have worked for us last year or the year before may not really fit with our lifestyle at the moment. But I'm here to tell you that it only takes small little tweaks for you to do consistently over time that can help you get to the goals that you have with your health, with your relationships, and with your business too, and in parenting and in the whole nine yards. So really what it starts with is it starts with boundaries. And we hear a lot about this word boundaries and what does that look like? And often when we think of boundaries, we're thinking about our connection with others or outside forces or organizations or the things that we're involved with on a day-to-day basis, that sometimes other people are dictating to us what we do in a day or a week. And sometimes it's our work schedule. And so having boundaries around, for instance, working at home now for many people, and knowing that, okay, I have a certain amount of time that I spend working, and then I turn the page and I'm into my family life instead, so that you actually get a clean break. It becomes a little more challenging when you're moving into a work at home situation, especially when there's deadlines and things like that. And certainly things can flex, but it can be challenging to not feel like you need to be working all the time. So that's often what we think about when we think of boundaries. However, what about boundaries with yourself? I can say for myself, I go through seasons where my boundaries get tested. And a lot of the boundaries that I struggle with are boundaries that I either haven't set for myself, so certain habits are formed that just kind of get out of control, or they are boundaries I've set with myself that may be completely unrealistic. And so I'm never fully getting the benefit of the boundary because I keep breaking it. So we have to really think about what is realistic for us in our time of life, this season of life, whether you are, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whether you have young children, whether you have teens, whether you're an empty nester, whether you're single, whether you're getting into a relationship. There's so many different variables that affect the boundaries, not only with other people, but with ourselves. Because our time pouring into people and activities outside of ourselves affects our schedule. It affects the time that we have available to be able to do the things that are important to us. So I find that revisiting my vision for what I hope to achieve and what I hope for my weeks to be like really helps me to address this boundary issue. And I always know when a boundary needs to be revisited when I start feeling overwhelmed, or when I feel unclear about my next step, or when it feels like everything seems urgent. And I realize that, okay, we need to take a step back and look at all the different things on the go and what is the most important thing to do right now. Sometimes it's in our health where health issues creep up and we haven't been paying attention because we've been focused on other things. And so taking the space to recalibrate and look at how do we really want to be feeling? How do we want to be showing up in our health? So stepping back and recreating some boundaries that can support those healthy habits in our life. So that's really important. So boundaries, everything starts with boundaries. And the next thing that is very important is making sure that your consistent actions are actually supporting your intentions. So when you revisit this boundary, let's say you want to be getting a really good workout in first thing in the morning, and it's been challenging for you to do because of all the various things that have changed in your life, or it's always been a struggle for you to get up earlier to do this. The place that we really need to start is the night before. And what is our bedtime situation looking like? And are we getting to bed at a decent hour so we're getting enough rest so we're waking up ready to go? And often we might make choices in the moment that really don't support the things that we want to achieve. We'll think, oh, but this book is really good, or this show or this series is really good. Just one more episode and then I'll go to bed and I'll be able to get up. No problem. I feel great right now. Guilty, done that a lot. And then you wake up and you end up dragging through the day because you're just not rested. And maybe the workout that you tried to do, you didn't really get anywhere with it because your energy wasn't there. So it's like having that picture in front of you of what it is that you want to achieve so that you can actually get up at the decent hour and do the thing. And then when you do that enough times and that becomes a habit, you're able to really move forward towards your goals. So one thing I've found very, very powerful in helping me to really make my consistent actions support my intentions is to get accountability, to have someone support me in that, to tell someone close to me who I know is going to hold me to what I'm saying. This is what I want to do. Please, if I need to be getting to bed earlier and I'm just not, remind me and support me that I'm going to regret it if I don't, right? Like having that accountability is super important. And it's helped me a lot. And it's also helped me look at, for this particular example, I think a lot of people experience this, especially people who may be struggling with sleep, is what are all of the different things? What's the bedtime routine that I need to help to support my sleep, etc., so that I can have a better day and a better week and have the energy that I need. So having that support could also mean the people in your family, or if you're living alone, people who can support you from outside with like a phone call or a text to remind you, but in your home to make it a very relaxing environment so that you're ready to tone down and just drift into the quiet, peaceful night so that you're ready to sleep. It doesn't just happen. You need to create the environment. And so having people to support you in that is incredibly important and incredibly helpful. And I've needed to deal with this in my own time as well, in my own family circumstance, where things keep shifting as my kids are getting older and, you know, all of the things kind of are up in the air at times. And so I need to be really firm with my own boundaries. And the beautiful thing is when people love you, they will support you in the things you want to achieve. And sleep is just so foundational for health. And I'm finding it even more when it comes to this phase of my life, the perimenopausal phase. I've always been a great sleeper, and yet certain things I find are impeding on that at times. So I really need to be extra aware of how to handle that. And one of the things also, and we go back to boundaries, is looking at the time that we spend in front of screens, the time we spend on social media, and how much am I consuming versus what am I actually putting out, and the value I'm putting out into the world, into my relationships, into real-time relationships. So incredibly important to look at that. It's probably one of the most challenging things right now because there's so much information flying around us and we don't want to miss anything. And so when that happens, our minds have a hard time slowing down. So I'm just talking about sleep and getting a workout in the morning. This could pertain to anything in your life, but I thought I'd give you an example so you can see how does this apply for you. Is there something that you are trying to create a consistent habit around in your life to help move you forward and you just don't feel like you're getting anywhere? Well, again, you start with your boundary and then you make sure you have consistent actions that are supporting the vision that you want to achieve. And you know what? Start small. That's the simple piece, starting small. When it comes to sleep and getting up earlier, it could mean going to bed just 15 minutes earlier the first few days, and then adding another 15 minutes the next few days until you get to the time that you feel like will really give you what you need. You may just need an extra 30 minutes of sleep to get in bed, an extra 30 minutes, that is, so you can wake up 30 minutes earlier. It may be an hour. It depends. You know? And so when you take these tiny little steps, it starts to give you small wins so that you know that you can do it. Even 1 day, 2 days of doing it, it gives you that boost of, hey, I did it. You know, I've been struggling for so long, but I did it. And so I encourage you to do these things, take the small wins, and don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze it, and don't make things too huge because then you'll feel like you'll never be able to start. This could have to do with your eating, maybe having more greens in your diet. It may be drinking more water, something so simple, right? That feels so challenging. It may be actually starting dinner a half an hour earlier each night. That's something I've been struggling with, honestly. I tend to always make it at a certain time, and there's this window of time I have where I can get started to make things happen earlier, and I just seem to keep missing that window. But I realize I've not set a boundary around it. I've not made some consistent actions to create that habit, and I've not really mentioned, oh, this is what I want to do. So these are things that I can do even with something like that, you know? And the nice thing about that, if you make dinner earlier, everything else is earlier, so you can go to bed earlier. Oh, there's another little quick tip for you. So I just want to encourage you, because we can feel like life is just happening to us and we're kind of stuck on this treadmill. We're not really making progress. And I invite you to look at an area of your life that you feel like if you created a boundary around, to create some small, consistent actions to make change in that area, that in 6 months to a year's time, you'll see massive rewards, because that's how it works. The gains and the big wins in our life don't happen with just one or two things that we've done. It really is an accumulation of small actions over time. Give you a quick example. My son just is in the midst of finishing up grade 9 French, and he was doing some written French all through K to grade 8, of course, like most people in Canada. And in that process, he did his writing, but then he would do 10, 20 minutes a day, sometimes 30 minutes a day of this online French program. And he would do it every weekday. And it was just small amounts every single day, small amounts every single day. To the point where when he got into his French class, he found that he was understanding things and doing well in his studies with that, because of the continual repetition that he had. And isn't that what happens for all of us with things that we learn? Well, we can apply this also to the things that we're doing each day, our habits, the things that can support our health, and even the things that can support our relationships. I mentioned that at the beginning: health, relationships, business. So when it comes to our relationships, it can be having regular, even tiny little check-in times with the people that have a lot of meaning in our lives, where we're communicating certain things. It's easy to fall off of that, especially when you're kind of around each other all the time. You think, oh, everybody knows how I'm feeling. But what ends up happening is a lot does get unsaid and expected, and then miscommunications happen. And when many of us are spending a lot more time together, because in my area we're not able to really go anywhere, these little miscommunications can add up over time, because we're just all making assumptions. So if instead we have regular, tiny, short little check-ins with each other, our relationships can not only be salvaged, but we can actually really grow and feel closer to each other. So this works for everything, of course, with business, making connection calls throughout the week instead of having just one day where you're just on the phone all day long, having short little stints, staying in touch with people. It doesn't, it depends on what your business is, depends on what your work life is, but consistent action is a beautiful way to make wins in your life. And so again, starting with boundaries, making them consistent, and starting small with support. You can do it. And I'm here to support and encourage you along the way. I hope that you've had a wonderful week. And I hope that the days ahead, you can start to look at little areas in your life where you want to see more wins, and make those little steps towards the things that are so important to you. Because when you are thriving, it rubs off on the people around you. And then when enough of us are thriving, really beautiful things can happen in the world. Our world needs us right now. And for those of us who are able to take good care of ourselves and elevate our wellness and elevate our mission in the world, we can do really great things to help those who really need us right now. So I send you lots of love, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for being here.